You're watching The Edward Fowler Show. Now, here's your host, Edward Fowler.
Good evening. Welcome to your Wednesday night hump day edition of my show here on YouTube and also on your favourite podcast sites. And we do have a bit of a background noise coming from my guest, which is fine. So he's just making sure that it's working and that it's legit, which obviously it is because you can hear it. And so this person, he said to me the other week when we announced that I was going to have him on the show, we talked about it just in passing, and he might have thought I was just joking about it, but I was absolutely serious because here we are tonight. He is a myth. He's a legend. And we're going to learn all about him this evening because according to this person, he's a nobody. And that compared to all the other guests I have on the show, from the likes of, I can talk about Bruce Springsteen, Michael Caine. I can talk about all these great celebs. And my guest thinks he's not included in that. Well, tonight he is, because please welcome along. He is a teacher. He is a solicitor. He's also a theatre actor or a musical theatrics. Whatever you want to describe this man, here he is in the full fresh, coming to your screens wherever you are in the UK or beyond. It is Roberto Lavorini. Welcome to my show. Yes, thank you so much for accepting to be on the show tonight. And, how are you? It's a nice sunny afternoon where you're joining me from.
It is. It's absolutely lovely. I'm joining you from Stockport.
Yes, good old Stockport. We don't mention that on the show very often, so it's nice to have that on. A shout out for Stockport.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for that incredible introduction. And I'm sorry that I'll now be a huge letdown after you've built me up so much.
Well, we'll see about that. Let the audience, describe that. Okay, and I'm not gonna. Join it very much, so there you go. Firstly, I'll just say this: the only thing we're going to disagree about tonight is probably football teams. But apart from that, I think we're going to be in agreement with a lot of things.
Nobody's perfect, Ed.
Yes.
I'll forgive you.
Yes. Well, let's go straight into that subject right now. Let's get that out of the way, and then we can go on to more interesting things in a little later. Where did your love for Manchester City start then?
Well, Ed, first of all, I was born in South Manchester. I come from Withington, so that's probably a traditional Manchester City area. Being from Manchester, especially.
Oh, yeah.
I'd lost you then, Ed.
Yeah, don't worry, you're back.
Oh, and my father was a Manchester City fan, so I suppose that was the influence.
That's fair enough. Nice short story like that. And, from one City fan inspiring the next City fan. And I guess as well, are you trying to inspire future people you come into contact with to support the blue side of Manchester?
Well, to be honest, Ed, I think they're at that stage now where they've become so big through, the success of the team. They're a bit like United were probably many years ago.
Yes, where we were, as we say, the best in the world before social media was a thing.
Yeah, I'm probably before, I have to say, before all these billionaires turned up.
Yes.
Well, give credit where it's due. United, that was a team. That was, if I'm honest with you, Ed, that was the kind of way I would have liked City to have succeeded. Get the right manager, right blend of players, and so on.
No, I completely agree. I think many clubs would be in complete agreement, like Newcastle, for instance, maybe even West Ham, places like that. Get the right structure in place and you can go really far if they know exactly what they're doing.
Well, that's it. Well, Ferguson, you see, a lot of people probably wonder whether he would have been given as long nowadays. He was probably a game or two away from being sacked. Certainly at that time in the Italian league, for instance, he wouldn't have survived longer than a season. A completely different mindset in Italy, which is probably a bit like that now in the Premier League in some ways. There's a lot less patience for managers than there was back in the 80s.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you there, Roberto. So moving on from that subject onto another interesting subject. So, when you started to be a part of plays and get into the world of theatre, was it just something that came out of the blue for you? Like one day, thought, "Oh, I'm going to try this," or have you been wanting to be involved since you were, I guess, maybe a teenager onwards, or were you inspired by somebody more recently?
Well, actually, it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I many years ago, my mother used to take me to the theatre when I was young. So as a young boy, I used to go to the Palace Theatre a lot. My mother had a friend who used to run the ticket club at the Palace Theatre, and we were very lucky. She was able to get us tickets at discounted prices and usually some of the best seats. So often I'd get to see quite a few different shows that were on over the years. And, I did a little bit, at primary school, like everybody
Yeah.
does. But it was always usually the same people that got chosen to play all the big parts in the primary shows. So I was sort of in the shadows a bit. And then when I went to secondary school, I did a few plays, did a house play, a school play, we did a school review, and I got a bit of a taste for it, and then did a little bit of acting at university. But then after that, then after that came career, marriage, children, and I didn't do anything for over 20 years.
Wow.
I did, funnily enough, I did have a period of working for 6 years as a primary school teacher. And as many people may know, of course, um, primary schools put on shows. So I got involved in the children putting on shows, really enjoyed, sort of directing and helping the children do that. And there were a couple of shows where the staff got involved as well. And I just thought to myself, you know what, I enjoy this again. Why don't I get involved? And I had a friend who, funnily enough, I'd recently seen perform in a couple of plays, one of them being in Inspector Calls, which I did myself at university. And he invited me to come for an audition for a play at Sale Nomads, for a play called God of Carnage. And I somehow managed to get a part in that play. And after over 20 odd years of not doing anything, found myself in a four-handed play, was performed in one act. So it was about an hour and 20 minutes where we didn't leave the stage. And thinking to myself, what on earth have I done? And almost 10 years later, I'm still a proud member of the Sale Nomads.
No, I won't say a bad member at all.
Oh,
Unless
proud member, proud
proud.
member.
Oh, that's good.
Not a bad one. Well, I might be a bad one. Who knows?
Yeah, like behind the scenes, you're going absolute chaos, maybe behind the scenes, but out in the open, you're not. But I'm glad we can verify that. But no, what a great story that is, and I'm also quite happy that I hope the person who's brought you into that audition is still seeing you today and watching you grow more and more from 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, oddly enough, I do sing. He was a fellow, he was a parent at the same school my children went to. So his son was in the same year as my oldest. And he writes a bit actually, and we've done the odd bit of stuff together. I think we were in a play together at the Nomads, and he wrote some very political sketches actually that we performed at Nook in Heaton Moor.
Right, that's quite good. Now, off air, I asked my guest here if there's anything you can't not discuss on the show tonight, and he said politics. And the first thing he does on the show is talk about politics.
And I'm not discussing politics. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discussing them.
Yes. Yeah, that's a birth for you. He's a politician, in and out. Just joking. But I mean, when you've been able to do different plays, now I know the plays you promoted and all of this has been fantastic. You've gotten great reviews, but I feel like most of them are always, I guess, come to you more appealing as the comedy side of things. Now, were you always inspired to be like a mini comedian on the side as well, maybe?
Well, I can tell you now. I have to say, growing up, I loved comedy. Absolutely loved comedy. I used to watch all sorts of comedies. As you get older, I think you probably get a bit more choosy. Having said that, I don't probably have as much time to watch TV as I did when I was a child. Misspent youth, I think. And yeah, I enjoyed comedy, but the one thing that I wouldn't certainly put myself out for is stand-up comedy or anything like that.
Really, I think you'd be quite good at it. No. You've got it right there. You really do. You got the chemistry.
No, not at all. It's absolutely scare the life out of me. It would scare the life out of me. Having said that, musical theatre scares the life out of me as well.
Wow.
Singing and dancing.
Well, we'll go out in a few moments because I got tease. I like the tease from Roberto. But interesting take that you don't think you'd be very good at comedy, even though you put you out in many different theatre shows, learning so many different lines. Because I know recently you took part in another show where it was two people, wasn't it? And you did lots of different parts. And I bet that was quite a nightmare to learn all these different parts, all these different lines, and to make sure you didn't forget anything on the night.
Well, yeah. That was, in fact, that was a play called Two, by Jim Cartwright. It's actually written for only two people to play all the roles. So we each played, myself and my fellow cast member Laura played 7 parts each.
Yeah.
Varying, for my part anyway, from a little boy all the way up to an old man.
About fun.
And it's set in a pub in the north, and we play the landlord and landlady throughout the play, and then there are all these other different characters that come into the pub during the evening. And I have to say, yeah, it was probably the most difficult show that I've ever performed in. It was certainly the most satisfying to pull off. I was very pleased at the reception it got. It was extremely difficult to learn all those lines as well. There was absolutely nowhere to hide. There was hardly any break during the play. You have a couple of monologues each, but of course you're then on almost as soon as your fellow cast member has finished the monologue. So yeah, we had to. Yeah, it was very intense. Lots and lots of rehearsals, and of course there was no one else in the play, so we were at all the rehearsals having to do everything.
Wow.
Which was, yeah, it was brilliant. It was an absolute joy to be involved in, and if anything, it reignited my passion. If it could be reignited any further for doing theatrical shows, and also for writing as well, and just being more involved in amateur dramatics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, does that mean you went so successfully and you got rave reviews on that particular play? Does that mean you do more of these particular plays in the future? Or is one enough?
Well, people did say to me, "You're going to do, what are you going to do after that? You're going to do a one-man show."
Oh, that'd be even better. That'd be great.
And I said, absolutely not. Although there is a play. There is a play I have seen, which is practically a one-man show.
Oh, right.
In London, many years ago, which was absolutely fantastic.
But I bet that was quite hard to pull off, though. I
which is probably why I will avoid that.
Right. Well, I think you'll pull it off quite easily. I think because I remember someone was saying that even though it was a 2-man show you were doing, that something went wrong, but luckily nobody in the audience realised it because you were able to ad-lib on the go.
Well, I could probably say that about every play I've been in. Obviously, it's usually more noticeable if you do a pantomime and you can get away with it.
Yes.
But it is. There was some ad-libbing in Two, and some of it was just because part of the play calls for you to break the fourth wall. In other words, converse with the audience and go into the audience, and you don't know what the reaction's going to be. So we had to be prepared for anybody in the audience actually speaking back. And be prepared for that. So, which did happen on one or two of the nights, and we just had to ad-lib and respond accordingly, sort of improvise. But it can throw you because you've got to be careful then that you don't lose the thread of where you're up to with your lines and so on.
Ooh, it sounds interesting. I might have to come along to one of these shows and just start to interrupt it during the night. That'd be quite fun to do.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because of course there is another show.
Yes.
There's one next week. It's at the Sale Nomads Studio Theatre in Sale and Friars Road, and it's a musical showcase. So it's a few different groups within the club performing excerpts from a variety of musicals.
Yep, and you can see right now on my screen, you've got Come From Away, you've got Six, Mamma Mia, Snowman, Dancers, Tick Tick Boom, Nomads Show, Choir as well. The graphics right there on your screen from the great Roberto who sent that to me, which is right there on your screen. I don't know if you can see that yet on your screen, but it's on my screen right now. To the masters out there who might be interested in next week's performance.
Yeah, it's on from Wednesday to Saturday. It's I can tell people who are that way inclined that it's a very cheap bar as well. So it's a very cheap night out. Um, and yeah, I'm in the group that's doing some tracks from Come From Away, which I must confess I've never heard of
No, I've not heard
until
of
we
it either.
uh,
I was saying that to me before, and thinking, what the earth is come from away? Because I'm thinking, have you ever heard of it? This other person, and no, I've not heard that before either. So can you tell us more about that, or is it top secret?
No, it's not top secret. In fact, I get a mixed reaction when I tell people what it's about because often musicals are about real life events. So you've got various musicals like Miss Saigon, I think, for instance, is based on I think the Vietnam War, like Les Miserables, which is based on the French Revolution, which tends to be bad things that happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is no exception in many ways because Come From Away is based on 9/11. Um,
Ah.
Now, however, it's not based on the events of 9/11 that took place in New York, thankfully. It is actually a feel-good story about a place in Newfoundland, near to Canada,
Okay.
which was a town called Gander, and which had a very large airport, which in the 50s, I believe, was a very popular airport because it predated the jet engine. So when anyone was traveling across the Atlantic to North America, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but planes had to refuel at this particular airport. So it was often frequented by all the film stars, royalty, very important dignitaries, and so on that might have been visiting North America or vice versa. And well, what happened was during 9/11, as you may or may not be aware, Ed, they closed the airspace above North America as an emergency because of what had happened with the Twin Towers and these passenger planes being used as weapons. And it forced a number of planes to land in Gander that had not, and they'd not had this happen for many years. And the town, I think, was practically invaded, or that's not probably the right term to use, visited by over, I think, 7,000 passengers, something along those lines,
Wow.
or from all over the world, who they suddenly had to put up and find accommodation for. And it's a really good story about that and what happened to the people and some of the true stories that emerged from it. And it's a very uplifting musical, and the music's excellent as well.
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting, and it kind to hear how it all comes about and what happens in the end of what happened to all the people and how they were paying accommodation for all these, I guess, people stuck in this particular place until the emergency is over.
Well, this is it, yeah. I mean, like I say, these people from all over the world as well. So for some of them, this was a complete culture shock as well to
Yeah.
land in a place like Gander. And in Newfoundland, it's a Canadian Irish kind of influence. It's an interesting sounding place, I have to say. I'd like to visit Newfoundland. Having seen some pictures of the place, it looks fantastic.
Well, that leads on to my next question because nicely, actually, this is like a nice way to go. You've done a lot of plays, and I guess there's a lot of places maybe you've never been to. Because I know a part of your Italian heritage, you spent a lot of time in Italy, and we'll get to that in a minute. But is there anywhere apart from that other place you just mentioned a moment ago where you have never been, and you think, wow, from what I've seen or heard about the players, I would love to go.
Well, there is, yeah. Japan. That would be my go-to country, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people say that for some reason as well. I don't know what's so special about it, but I guess it's all about the culture and about the way they eat as well is quite important.
Yeah, it's for me. It's this incredible contrast between the very traditional culture that seems to have survived, years of modernization, and the fact that Japan technologically is probably a very advanced and modern nation.
Yeah.
It's a very, it's almost Western in some ways, but it's also completely different in many others. And the culture, I studied a bit of Japanese at university, did enjoyed doing that, did think about going out there to teach English, but instead the call of a career in law pulled me away from that.
Or in better words to say, is that you found a better career right here in Manchester instead.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, had life been different, I wouldn't be in Manchester now to witness this incredible turnaround in Manchester City's fortunes, just bringing us back to the football. Topic.
Full circle here. Yeah.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah, you can't resist. But now let's talk about your Italian heritage, because you spent a lot of time in Italy. Now, last week, I believe it was, I had on a pianist on my show, and we chatted about, because he's of Italian heritage as well, and he goes to Sicily. Now, of course, you know what that means, that place is. He goes there a lot on vacation and inspiration for his music. And you probably have your own places where you go. Now, I asked him, when you go to this gorgeous city, tell people where they should go, and he told me some great restaurants and some great places people should go in Sicily. That's the right word, Sicily. And
Sicily, yeah.
And when you go to Italy, where do you spend your days, and what should people do in that particular part of that region where you go to?
Oh, that's a good question, because of course sometimes it can depend on the season. If you're going in the summer, where my father's from is in northern Tuscany.
Okay.
So a bit of a contrast to Sicily, down in the south. Beautiful island, Sicily as well, which is again that's probably on my to visit list.
Right.
I absolutely love the TV series Montalbano as well, which is set in Sicily. It's absolutely fantastic. Can't understand half of what they say though, because they use, I think, a lot of Sicilian dialect. But in northern Tuscany is where my father was born and grew up, and he came from a small village called Santa Lucia di Uzzano. Uzzano being the comune and also the town up in the hill nearby, and that's sort of slap bang in between Pisa and Florence. So those two places, mainly Florence, is where I would usually visit if I was going on a city visit.
Yeah.
And which is where I'll be going this summer, in fact, to celebrate my 25th wedding anniversary. But that's another story. In terms of places to visit, certainly in the area where my father was from, there is a town called Montecatini Terme, which in its heyday was very popular with Hollywood stars. It's a spa town. And it was very popular with Hollywood stars, with royalty, with all sorts of famous people, and they have their own very minor equivalent of the Hollywood sort of boulevard, where they've got famous names of people on the paving stones in one of the main streets in Montecatini. That's a lovely town to visit. But if I was going on full relaxation, I would probably go about 45-minute drive to Bagni di Lucca, which is in the hills, and there's a beautiful outdoor swimming pool that we visit, and it's just fantastic because you're outside a pool, lying by the pool, and you can see all these beautiful Tuscan hills everywhere you look.
That's great. That's great. And there's some great recommendations as well. So you should go to those places Roberto recommended. Now, to prove that this show is completely live, uncut, unedited, and definitely unscripted, we have a live YouTube question. So thank you to the person who has wrote in live, and they want to know, Roberto, because I don't know who it is, but they've asked. It's called the person's called The Vibe of a Mango. Great name. How hard is it balancing your career, your passion, and personal life? Great question.
That's a great question.
Whoever you are.
It's the funny thing is that I find when I've got more on, so such as doing a play or something like that, you have rehearsals on set days, usually 3 days a week. It makes you be more organised. It forces you to be more organised with what you're doing, and to make sure you can do everything that you need to do. Having said that, it is a big commitment to performing a play. The rehearsal schedule can be quite daunting, and the closer you get to showtime, there's more, the more rehearsals and the more intense they are. I mean, for instance, we're rehearsing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this in the next coming days before the show starts on Wednesday. So personal life as well. Well, I have a very patient wife who's happy for me to get involved in these things. I think, to be honest, it's good because she just gets me out of the house, so she doesn't have to put up with me at home. I suspect that's more of a benefit for her than me. But there we are. But no, she is the complete opposite. You would never see her do anything on the stage, and I think she can't think of anything more frightening. But she does come and support everything that I do, and comes and watches, and is probably a tougher critic than most people. It's very difficult to get a compliment out of her, I have to say.
Interesting. Well,
I hope she's not watching this.
Well, I don't know about that because we did lose a viewer when you started talking about your wife, so it might have been her. I don't know. Just saying, just be careful in your household this evening that you might have some personal questions to answer after this show. But what a great question! And following up on that, what time do your day begin at? Maybe is it 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning? Like, what time do you actually start your day?
Well, it can vary. I mean, the summertime, my days start a lot earlier, just because I think I just get up earlier with the sunshine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was in work this morning at 5:30.
Wow.
So that was a nice early start. I do like it when it's fairly quiet in the morning, and I can crack on without too much interference. It might not be that early tomorrow. It depends. Possibly, and possibly the same again on Friday. Just depending on where I'm going, what I'm doing. Often what I've done the night before as well. I mean, it will probably be tricky next week maintaining that because I'll be out fairly late with the shows on Wednesday and Thursday. So it will probably be tricky to be up so early on those days, or certainly the following days. But yeah, that's my working days usually quite early. But then I try not to stay too late. Then if I get to 5 o'clock, if I can get away, then that's great. Sometimes you have to stay later though, don't you?
Yeah, to get things done for sure. But yeah, it's interesting schedule you have. It's like doing a breakfast show or something that time in the morning, like a radio show or something. Because those people are very dedication as well, aren't they? Getting up early and getting things ready for the day. So at least people there knowing you are, doing your best for your other colleagues and able to make time as well to rehearse with your theatre colleagues and making sure everything is in check and that everything's down to the wire, that you know exactly what's going to happen, know your lines, know when to come in, know your comic timings as well. You mentioned earlier about that you watched a lot of comedy when you were growing up. Well, please name some of the comedies you loved or still love today.
Okay, well, I would say certainly the one that the one that I loved growing up as a youngster and I used to watch with my mum was Only Fools and Horses. Absolutely loved that show. But then moving forward, sort of fast forward to teens and what have you, then Blackadder and then Monty Python. Lots of people I knew, sort of 16, 17, 18. I was a very big Monty Python fan. More so the films probably than the TV shows, which it has to be said, dated. And then as I got older, The League of Gentlemen, Inside Number 9. I think that the chaps that do that are absolutely brilliant. Lots of other comedies. Fleabag, I think, is a masterpiece. And also Detectorists is brilliant as well. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are just some that jump out at me.
Yeah, stood out to you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Only Fools and Horses. Great show. Blackadder as well. Apparently that's coming back for a 25th anniversary special or something, I've heard. I can't believe you messed out One Foot in the Grave. I don't believe it. And as well, as I mentioned, The Detectives. Great show. Great comedy as well. Good one there. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before I let you go, by the way, I've got two more things to mention. One is, of course, your upcoming Showtime, at Sale Nomads on between the 15th to the 18th of May.
That's correct.
If people want to purchase tickets, where can they purchase tickets?
They can. The best thing to do would be simply to Google Sale Nomads. They should find the website, and there is a link there where they can purchase tickets. And you can choose where you sit as well. So the best thing to do would be Google Sale Nomads. I noticed they haven't put the website on there. I think that's something I'll be raising with the committee when I see them.
Good, so you should. Now, I actually pre-did that earlier on. I did type in Sale Nomads, and it did pop up straight away. So it will come up on the first Google search you do. So you can do that, and you can go to the website, and you can find the links through there. And also as well, Roberto, got some great news for you, by the way. If you want to see more of my face, then I urge you to check out my official merch store.
Fantastic.
I've launched a merch store, people. So you can now have my face on your mugs, your T-shirts. If you don't believe me, it should work right there. You can see for yourself.
I was worried you were going to say underpants then, Ed.
Well, unfortunately, they don't do underwear. So, but these are apparently official merch of mine now. You can actually buy from mugs, even slingshots, all sorts of things. So if you want to support, of course, I don't get the full amount of money. It goes to some company who takes the payments,
fantastic.
obviously. So I only get a little chunk of that.
Well, while we're promoting, Ed, as well,
Yes.
I've been asked to mention that the forthcoming play, the upcoming October play for Sale Nomads,
Yes.
called Ghost Train, is they're doing a read-through on the 1st of June for anybody that's interested in taking part. Doesn't just have to be on the stage, it could be behind the scenes as well. And auditions will take place on the 15th and 19th of June as well.
Sounds fun.
I'm hoping to audition for that as well. And if I'm very lucky, I might be involved.
Perfect. And on that then, is the best way to reach out via the website you mentioned a few minutes ago as well, or?
Yep. Definitely via the website. There's an auditions page on the website as well.
Perfect. There we go. Go get the plugs in, you know.
Oh, definitely.
All those teasers and all those plugs. We're going to wrap this up now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Susie Roberts, thank you for your comments as well in the YouTube live. Just to prove that this was live, shout out to people who tuned in and asked any questions. Is there anything you would like to mention, or anywhere people can contact you and follow you or anything like that? Feel free to do it now.
Oh, I'm not popular enough to be followed, Ed. Might catch me on Facebook or something like that.
Okay.
But what can I say? It's been an absolute privilege and an honour to be on the show.
Yes, indeed. And I hope that maybe half an hour ago you felt very anxious and nervous about coming to the show because you didn't know what I was going to say to you or anything like that. But half an hour later, you will now be more relaxed, more good about yourself because you now know this is over. So the question is, Roberto, before you came on my show tonight, did you do any research about my style or previous guests? Because you just thought I just had on wrestlers, like, for instance, Al Snow or Eric Bischoff, for instance. And, you know, but actually that's not true. I have all sorts of guests, from comedians, actors, musicians on the show, and fighters and boxers as well. You name it, we do it.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic, Ed. I think I hadn't done much research, but it's been a revelation to know that you've got your own merch.
Yes, as of like 72 hours ago, yeah. We will see how long that lasts for.
I know what to buy for Christmas now.
Yes, you do. Yes. There you go. But yes, thank you so much to my guest, Roberto, here this evening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to smash that like button, share the video around, tell more about Roberto Lavorini, tell more how good of a unknown person he is, and check him out next week. Hopefully he gets raised reviews, and if not, make sure to tell him, interrupt the show, and tell Roberto your honest thoughts. Of course, be careful. We don't want you getting thrown out, obviously.
I'll send the check. I'll send the check in the post, Ed.
Well, Roberto might have to force you out the venue because he can get a bit tough, you know. So be on the safe side of that. And if you want to see more of my content, because you should do, then smash that subscribe button. It takes 10 seconds or less to do so. And until the next episode, which will be, by the way, tomorrow night with a great singer coming on the show. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening or afternoon.